Well, hey there everybody, welcome back to the channel. Thanks for hanging out with me again today. Today, we're going to be building this. This is the 1997 Mercedes Benz CLK GTR on the TC01 chassis. It's a lot of little letters jumbled up in there. So, I've got this a while ago, a year and a half ago almost. And I wanted to put it together, and it just got set aside because something new showed up, and then it got pushed aside again, and then it got put in the closet, and it's been a minute. So decided to take it out, get it built, see how the chassis is. That was my main interest of it. The body, it's cool. It's not a bad looking body, but it's nothing that I was super thrilled about. What it wasn't was the Formula E car that this originally came out with, and I had zero interest in spending all that time cutting out all 15 body pieces or whatever it is and getting it all put together, and it didn't look fun. So when this one came out, I was like, ooh, okay, now it has an actual car body on there, and wasn't a terrible race car livery, so decided to get it. Anyway, enough babbling about. We'll get everything laid out on the bench, and as usual, go through the whole build in a picture montage, and then we'll come back and talk about it. here is the finished product. Well, the chassis at least. So overall, it went together very, very well. There are a few things to take note of if you decide to get one of these or if you have one to build. But overall, it went together very, very well. Now, two things is you are very, very limited on what servos you can use. The one I have in here barely fit. I actually probably should put some washers underneath of it because it is basically, when I screwed it down, it is sandwiched tight in between the servo mount and the bottom of the chassis. So I may pull it back out and just put a couple washers underneath there just so it's not, almost a force fit, but it's not going anywhere, that's for sure. And the other thing is the manual is basically laid out for that original car, that Formula E setup, which is fine, but there are some changes, well, one in particular that really I screwed myself on, literally and figuratively. So let's go over the build first. So the only thing I added to it was a couple of bearings. The main bearings do come with the kit. They give you some 850 bushings, the little brass bushings, bronze bushings, whatever, for pieces on the steering rack. Now, two of them you have to use. Basically, it's a very, very tiny set that go on at the pivots where the links connect. And they're just so small. I didn't have any bearings to fit it. I'm sure they make bearings that small. I just didn't have any on hand, and I was like, it's good enough. But the other ones go in the rack and stuff like that. So I replaced all the bushings with bearings. I think it was 6 or 8. I'm not 100% sure. But they give you bearings for the steering pivots, your hubs, the transmission, all that stuff is supplied with bearings. So you're good to go. One thing is on the suspension rocker arms, there's metal posts that get screwed through underneath, and you thread lock those on. Now, I use the Tamiya thread locker. That's what I wanted you to use. And I like using the Tamiya thread locker because all these kits are so much plastic. That stuff will not destroy any of your plastics, and it works well. It's not perfect, but it works very well. We'll get back to that in a second. So on the top, once you have those posts put in, so those little pivot blocks that pivot back and forth between the shocks and the struts coming off of the lower suspension arms, they get one of those really thin flathead screws and a little tiny plastic bushing. The bushing, it's fine. It's not bearing any load or anything. It's just spacing it off. And I put all 4 on. And I said, well, I should never have to take those off. Put a little dab of red Tamiya Loctite on there. Put them on. Sure enough, to put this car body post set on, you have to remove the rear screws, and the lower part of the mount system goes on in place of the little plastic washer bushings. Yeah, that thread lock stuck in there nice. So I actually had to take the head of a small Phillips screwdriver, heat it up with the torch, set it in the screw, and leave it in there for a minute or so, and then slowly start working back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. The problem is where those little metal posts go, all you have is a little tiny hex area in the plates to keep that post from spinning. So when you tighten up that screw, you basically tighten it up to that post till it stops, because you keep tightening it, it's just going to start spinning that post. Well, when you have red thread lock in the top and the thread lock doesn't want to let go and you're trying to loosen it up, well, it just starts spinning that post. So, like I said, I had to use some heat to get rid of that. I can't put a flame on it because everything around it is plastic. So basically, pinpoint heat with a soldering iron, or I've got a junk Phillips screwdriver that I was able to heat up and just put right down in there. That'll transfer the heat directly to the screw and then go down there and soften up that thread lock. My mistake. They did not call for thread lock on there. I should not have put thread lock on there, but I was like, meh, why not? Well, don't. Everything else went together just fine. I had no issues with the build itself. Everything fits really, really nice. This is much more of a race car than your normal Tamiya kit. This is a far cry from a TT02. It still has kind of that overall TT02 layout. Front diff, rear diff, center main direct drive. While the TTO2 is set back, you know, this is midship because you have the onboard shocks taking up all the space, but kind of the same principle. Now, the diffs in here are really, really, really nice. They're fluid-filled diffs. The diff itself called for the 9,000 or 900 CST hard shock oil, and you build the shocks with that oil as well. I went ahead and put some 3,000 in there because I knew that 900 was not going to do much but lubricate the gears, and they are nice and free and smooth. So I think, you know, once everything breaks in, the diffs free up, that'll be the perfect amount of give, but still, you know, be effective. The shock oil, like I said, I think that was going to be entirely too thin. You're basically lubricating parts at that point. You're not really adding any resistance for the diff. The manual did a very good job, but like I said, the manual is tailored for that Formula E car, so you kind of have to go through the whole thing. Like I said, these rear body mounts are different, so basically flip to the very back of the manual, see what's different for that, and you know, you'll kind of prepare yourself ahead. Interesting things during the build, these shocks are absolutely hilarious when you get them built. They have the tiniest little shock bodies, but then you have this long shaft sticking out. And basically, that's, you put a big long, somewhere in between 20 and 25, I want to say it was 22, I don't remember off the top of my head, plastic spacer in there. All it is just a big plastic tube on one of the parts trees, and that basically gives you this big long shaft at the bottom. Now, the plastic is acting as a spacer, and it'll help keep that shaft from bending. Obviously, you know, this is an on-road car, you shouldn't be bending shock shafts, hopefully. Now, the one odd thing I did not like about the kit is these rear risers. So these are specific for the on-road car body. Now, the fronts, they just mount on down here, and they're fine. The rears, because the plastic of that lower shock body mount thing is that really, really soft plastic, because they're basically using that as a bushing down here. So they needed to put these heavier braces in, and when you put the heavier braces in, well, you get a big, you know, wheel arch gap. So you either have to suck the car down more to raise the wheels up with the droop screws, or live with a big wheel arch. I had to live with a big wheel arch because I plan on driving it. It just seemed like they should have given you an optional length, or made this to where it was an adjustable length. I don't know, because I would have liked to set the body down one post hole down here, and then the front could have matched it, and it would have sat and looked really, really nice. And then you can always raise the body up to run it, but it is what it is. It's a little tall. You'll see that when the body comes on. I know you guys are itching to see what I did with the body, but just give me just 1 second. Like I said, much more of a race car. Now, the front turnbuckle, the front steering links are adjustable, so you can put either just twist them apart to change your toe angle, or you can add a specific, you know, 1 millimeter spacer, take them apart, put a spacer in, screw them all the way back together. That way, you know, they're perfectly fixed links. But I think most guys are just going to twist them apart a turn or two to change that. The rears are fixed links. They're molded onto one of the parts tree parts. There is no real camber caster changes. It's just fixed with the upper and lower arms, and that's kind of the limitation of when they made this to look like the Formula E car. They have those Formula E upper and lower suspension arms, so you're just kind of stuck with it, which is fine. I don't tune. It's just going to be run the way it's run. Overall, it's a very, very smooth, quiet car. We'll just see that when it gets out for a run, hopefully fairly soon. But again, I know you guys are itching to see what the body looks like, so give me 1 second. All right, so I did not go box art with it. I was hemming and hawing. I was like, they have to be, everybody's got a silver one. All I've ever seen is silver, 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 silver. I didn't really want to do silver. It's just a basic, simple livery. It's got the D2 Privat, which is a old phone system in cell system in Germany, and then Warsteiner, a very tasty beer. I've had a bunch of those, but it was just kind of like meh, and I really didn't want silver, like I said. So I went online and said, hey, what else could I paint this as? So I looked up, Mercedes Benz CLK GTR. Yeah, they're freaking all silver. Even the ones that weren't sold as race cars are just basically silver. It's like, let's make a supercar. Let's do the Henry Ford. The only color you can get is silver. But I decided I want to do it different. So I said, okay, we're scrapping the decals. What color can I paint it? And my first thought was, let's do gunmetal. But just did the core copper and gunmetal. So I was like, well, let's not do that. And by the way, I did fix the core copper. I know that set a few of you guys off in the last video. The head of my chair will bump into him occasionally and knocked him off. So I was like, okay, I've got metallic purple. But I only had like 3/4 of a can, and I was afraid that wasn't going to be enough. And then I was like, I don't know if I wanted to be purple. And then I was like, what else do I got? I'm like, well, PS16 looks good on damn near everything. So sprayed it with the PS16 and backed it with blue, the regular PS4 blue, and then I backed the whole thing in black to black it out on the inside. The wing and the spoiler are done in the TS, I don't remember, metallic black. And you can only tell, like, right up on it that it has any metallic to it at all. It had a little bit more before I clear coated it, but I had to clear coat it because they came out very, like, dullish looking. I didn't like it. So I had to put clear coat on there. If I had my choice, I would have just run the lower spoiler, but they mold in giant keyways for the wing to go on into the body. So it was like, what's going to be the less of two evils? Put the ginormous race wing on, or have giant funky looking dimples in the back of the car that I was like, well, we'll just put the giant goofy wing on there. And it doesn't look bad. It just looks odd. And I think it would have looked so much faster, sleeker, cooler with just the black molded spoiler on there and not this ginormous race wing. And I opted not to put anything on the wing. I wanted to go for, this is somebody's ultra fancy supercar, not a race car, something you can take to the track, but pretty much it's a showpiece. But as you can see, we've got huge wheel arches in the back, and there's nothing I can do about it. You really can't lower it down because then you start pressing the body mounts back at an odd angle. It just didn't work. So the fronts match the rear, but yeah, so now it can go full compression and not drag the ground. If it was a clip lower in the front and the front end compressed, the nose was scraping, and I could see that getting tucked up and just wrecking the front end. So since we are going to drive it, decided to go ahead and put up a space on the front. We're stuck with the space on the rear, and it is what it is. So yes, this will get out for a run very soon, but not right now. I just want to get it out with the Zack Speed and just do on-road stuff all at one time. I've still got the Advanced Auto NASCAR over there to run, so now that it seems like it stopped raining for the time being, hopefully parking lots will dry out. I can get out there, take this one out, take the Zack Speed out. I'm still waiting for the special delivery from the UK for the Zack Speed car, so hopefully that gets here tomorrow or Saturday. I can get that on and get that wrapped up, and then we can take these out this weekend, get them run. If not, they will get out as soon as I can. But I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I know it was a lot of yabbering and talking, but this kit is kind of unique and different, and I hope you guys enjoyed the build montage. And what do you think about the blue? Would you guys have just said screw it and just done the stock silver, everybody's done it livery, and I know there's a lot of race car fans out there that are probably like, you are defiling a great race car. It's not one that I knew, so to me, it's just a badass supercar. Anyway, guys, everybody out there, as always, you guys be happy, be healthy, be safe, and I will catch you guys on the next one. See ya.